Is there any such thing as self-made? I was listening to a podcast recently and they were talking about the subject of being self-made, and it made me think about, I think a couple of years ago, one of the Kardashians, I don't remember which one, was claimed as being, like the first self-made billionaire, I think, in the family. And from what I remember, the internet had a collective eye roll because obviously nobody could consider themselves self-made coming from that family because you're born into wealth. So you're born, if you want to use a baseball analogy, you're born on third base, so you're pretty close to home. So I guess that just comes into, it makes people question, like, what is self-made anyway? Is anybody self-made? Of course, if you come from a wealthy family and you get wealthier, a lot of people aren't going to really consider you as self-made. But what about, say, somebody like Jeff Bezos, who, from what I remember, came from like a pretty modest family, but he's now the wealthiest person on the planet. So it's not like he came from, a multimillionaire family and created a business and grew and, became a self-made, almost trillionaire probably eventually. So is he self-made? Because he probably had to go further than, say, the Kardashian sister did as far as her career is going. But he even will admit that he wasn't self-made. He said that his greatest riches came from his family. He had two parents. They were very loving. They gave him everything that he needed and supported him. And so even he couldn't consider himself self-made. And that's something that I think we could all remind ourselves of. Nobody is really self-made. Some people definitely get more help than others when it comes to either financial assistance or even emotional support, but we all have some kind of assistance, even if we don't recognize it. I always think about this one analogy. It was trying to convey the difference of how some people are just born a little bit more advantaged than others. And if I remember the story correctly, it was a professor teaching a class, and he wanted to convey this aspect of, you don't really know how close you are to your goal because of, your happenstance of how and where you were born. So he had all the students in a big class, like a traditional college room with rows of seats going all the way up. And he had everybody ball up a piece of paper, put a trash can right in the front of class, and he had the front row throw their ball of paper into the basket. And a lot of them got very close. A few of them made it. And then he had the next row of people ball up the piece of paper, throw it. And fewer people made it because they were farther away. And he went all the way up to the very top of the auditorium of the room, and those people, the furthest away, very few, if anybody, actually made it into the basket. And his point was, if you're in the front row, all you see is the goal in front of you. You don't really realize how close you are because your perspective is only what's in front of you. You don't really look back and say, oh, wow, I'm actually way better off than all those people back there because I just happen to be in this front row. But if you're all the way in the back, you can see everybody else in front of you, and you think that you can see how far back you are. So that can be kind of dispiriting. But it doesn't change the fact that we all obviously have a goal. And we can't control how we're born, we can't control in what situation we're born. But to bring it back to the original point, none of us are really self-made because we all have some kind of support structure around us, and we all rely on that, whether it's emotional support from family, maybe you just get lucky and you win the lottery, or you just get lucky and you're born into a wealthy family. But there really isn't any such thing as self-made. So if somebody is claiming to be a self-made entrepreneur or self-made millionaire, it's probably because they're not taking into account all of the benefits and all of the privileges they had around them. So if somebody around you is claiming to be self-made, you should probably ignore them and their advice. That's all I got for this one. See you in the next video.